Yep.
September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our reading, general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, you know, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards, it's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi, say hi here to camera, that's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here, and you know, this divining, it's all about observation and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important, this is who I am, without this I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how, you know, you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. And guys, let's not forget that there is a contest going on where you can win a 15-minute reading with me. Part of it is like leaving comments over here on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's going to be one winner a month that I'm going to pull from basically all of these guys. But there's going to be a much maybe faster way if you come to my live, which is every Saturday at 11 o'clock EST. You need to comment so we know that you're there. Just say hi, and you know, some of the moderators are going to kind of like make the pick. They can call it any time. You have to be present in order to get the award, and you get this like 15 minutes with me, and from that point you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hi Scorpio, and welcome to your monthly. So just don't forget to check your ascendant, your moon sign. Again, this is general reading, and it doesn't have to be you, so you know which is the best way to go with it. So the card Devil jumped out as I was shuffling. So it is kind of like talking about a situation that is kind of like feeling stuck. Look at this. This kitty over here thinks she's like a puppy, and this one here thinks is a rabbit. So it is a situation when we don't behave like ourselves. We are completely, you know, sometimes that some people can make you kind of like go that way, almost like they peg the role for you, and they are going to mold you unconsciously and subconsciously until you get there. So I help you always kind of like dating abuser. I'm just making a horrible example here, and whatever you say is going to become abusive, kind of a thing, right? The Devil is also to me always energy of the excess looming, right? And kind of like inability to kind of like see the clarity and the vision and the light. It's that big black box over here, right? And instead of like magic, it's a reverse magic. Things are really not done in your best interest. We will see how this kind of like plays in, because this also tells me that you might be involved in relationships, even if you're not involved, of the kind that are not the best for you, the kind that is not supportive, kind that is not in your best interest. And it's kind of like really hard to break the cycle when this kind of like shows up. And definitely you should check my video on codependency, and just to really see if you're dealing with that, because that's a really difficult burden to kind of like discontinue. You are having here getting to know each other, and there is like reconciliation looming over here. But it's kind of like interesting, because that's exactly what needs to be done to remedy the situation. It says, as you reveal your innermost selves to each other, your bond deepens. And that is really music to your ears, Scorpio. I know that you guys really like to bond, and even if, let's say, something is deformed and ugly in the other person, you're going to focus on that, and it's going to be very thing that this person had to conquer that you're going to love. You're going to love things about people they don't love about themselves, and that makes your life and love very strong and impactful. But not everybody is ready for it, and sometimes you need to maybe merge slower, because too much of a good thing can be scary to people, especially the people who maybe didn't have that level of being able to be even vulnerable. Because getting to know each other is also kind of like revealing yourself. Whenever you do that, it kind of opens us up to many different things. Maybe maybe there was an issue of a marriage, or kind of like setting the rules down. Maybe you're dealing with people who have their own rules, who are running in all directions, because that will be the Hierophant. And the Devil, Hierophant, kind of the priest or pope, or wherever you look at it, minister, is definitely hopefully not the devil, even though by the news lines that sometimes you look at it, you have to wonder. But definitely this card is not talking about religion. It's talking about these attitudes that we have that kind of like makes us kind of follow the religious paths, or having that kind of like universal set of rules with hope that kind of like they are going to get us somewhere, right? And this maybe tells me that there is like this essence of giving up on something or somebody, maybe even the rules, maybe even the vision, which kind of like would be the false path to follow, I have to tell you, because I don't want you to fall back into this kind of like thing. So let's start. I'm going to tell you the cards as they come out, as I call the category, because not everybody is familiar with my kitty cards. But again, guys, if you join my school, you're going to realize that, you know, it's kind of like relatively easy to learn the meanings of the cards, but it's not easy at all to learn their essence. Look, you're getting this again. Oh boy, I know what's going to be a title for you. Getting to know each other. It's really important because you guys deserve love. You guys absolutely deserve love. And it sounds like to me that you're dealing with possibly some psychological issues that are kind of like really hard to shake off, or kind of like dealing with people who are coming your way because they're knocking on your door maybe louder and louder and louder, that you need to deal with certain issues that you maybe haven't addressed so far. So we are going to see, like, you have the karma card over here. Oh my gosh, lots of reversals, and that's you. You're showing up. So guys, shall we start? Past. Maybe you are getting to know each other with somebody. Maybe you have been in a relationship, but it looks like something in your life has been very destabilizing. The Emperor is a really good card. It talks about inner maturity. It talks about, hey, you know what? This is kind of a structure. You're a fixed sign. You need structure very much. And if other people, it's kind of like, think about the Lego blocks, and you keep building those blocks and being very proud because it's kind of hard to lift it. Just like this codependence is hard to shake off. So, but if you do, you are kind of like really proud because you know the effort that has to be placed. But then somebody just comes and kicks all these blocks, and yes, sure, your card is the death. You can really resurrect anything that is needed, and you can do that, but there is a level of stupidity, right, where this kind of like stuff doesn't make sense. So I think this is why we had this, like, pay attention to the red flags that is coming up. The Emperor reversed is telling me that something or somebody has been destabilizing. You look at this, you have the Knight of Swords, you have the Queen of Swords later reversed, and Ten of Wands. Maybe you have been dealing with somebody who maybe had not only destabilizing influence on you, but maybe had some kind of like secrets. Maybe things were getting very hard. The Knight of Swords reversed talks about harsh attitudes, harsh words. You know, it's almost like, look how ridiculous this really sounds. You flirt with somebody and they tell you off. Well, hello? If this is what happened, why are you still carrying this burden? You kind of like need to kind of like make these quick decisions. You see, this is why the codependence shows up, because people need to figure out when they are wrong, but they're not wrong. Sure, there are exceptions. If you're a narcissist, and this means sometimes dealing with narcissists and people who always feel that they're better, that they are higher than the other people, that they're more worthy. Yes, you know, there is, like, let's say $5 million on the table, and there are 5 people, and they're going to first be ready to say, I'm going to give each of you $100 and the rest is for me. They would feel that entitled, not even needing to kind of justify that. It's just like, I am better, my brain is better, I look better, even though none of that has to be done. So with a codependent person, they can say all the stuff and you can just giggle and say, yeah, right, okay, goodbye, right, and just like remove them from your list. But if you try to earn their whatever appreciation or love, then the finger points at you, right? Because I'm seeing that was like kind of like a lack of strength or a lack of commitment that I'm reading here, because there were some kind of like lies, not only secrets, but lies. It's kind of like something that has ended that is still sort of like sending ripples through your life. But it's saying to stay optimistic and the positive thinking. Now, the Ace of Swords, it is one of my karma cards. The aces are the gateways into kind of like this minor arcana, and this is the fastest one. So these fast decisions, something that had to be cut off, it's not cut off for some kind of reason. Look, you have the 5 of Swords and the 6 of Pentacles. I'm wondering, guys, if there is like some kind of like standstill, impasse with somebody over here, but there could be different opportunities, because here we see kind of like 2 different options, and again somebody, oh my gosh, I'm so special kind of attitude, right? But it's reversed. Maybe this is really telling me that you guys are not realizing how special you are, because this card here is really talking about giving and sharing. And in the other decks, it's shown like with that merchant holding the scale and giving to the basically poor people, talking about that you also have to be measured even if you give, but you also have to be measured when you take. You may have been dealing with somebody who was just, I'm just going to grabbing. It's kind of like on my terms and on my terms only. And maybe this really means that you have been lying to yourself about something. And maybe you're optimistic about somebody who basically doesn't deserve it, because maybe you're falling back in the pattern. And the people who are falling here, they are so clueless that they will just continue singing their own song and their violin. It could be kind of like grabbing you on anything, from gaslighting to try to convince you that things are not that way, to being a victim. It is like a huge range of things, but certainly they're always thinking about they are first. And I can see this, that you have been trying to kind of like really work on something over here, that you kind of like felt, well, you know, I still don't know this person, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, guys, you are Scorpio. You're Scorpio coming out here. You have that instinctual ability that it cannot come close. Like, I mean, we, the rest of us, we have to really develop to be able to be on that level. But you kind of like have it built in. It's like one of those GPS parts that kind of like comes with you. So use it. You need to pay attention to the red flags. It's nice to be optimistic, but you need to prepare for the war, kind of a thing, right? Because look, you have the Knight of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles is always talking about kind of like measured progress. Knight of Pentacles is also a friend zone, and kind of like move slower. It keeps coming to me, getting to know each other, move slower. Look at this, Queen of Wands reversed. And there you go, the second karma card, which also is representing basically that Neptune. It's again kind of like connecting with you, Scorpio. So Queen of Wands could be you. And because we have the King of Wands over here as well, it could be that one relationship is falling apart, another one is starting, or that maybe you have a loyal friend who is going to tell you about somebody, and it is a time to release that karma. This is a big times karma card, just like this one, because this one is talking more than just this person. This one, it says, hey, you are actually cutting the pattern. You're kind of cutting something that needs to be cut off, and that's why the Ace of Swords is here as well. The Judgment card means deal with the past and release it. You need to transform yourself. You need to shed your skin, Scorpio. You need to kind of like go into this new direction. Maybe you wanted commitment. Retreat means somebody retreat from a commitment. Somebody was not forthcoming. Maybe this is your problem, that you were betting on somebody who is really not a person who kind of like deserves your attention, and looks like that somebody walked away over here. And retreat, to me, even though it shows two people, it's kind of like that card, which would be Four of Swords in tarot, where you kind of like really want to move on with kind of like stuff. Lots of probably thoughts are going through your head. This is that nightmarish card. Look, the swords are coming from all the sides, and it's kind of like that attitude where even when you're alone, like that whole, as French call it, cauchemar or nightmare, keeps circulating, keeps coming to you from all the sides, right? I think you're questioning yourself here. I also set this aside. I have to look at it. It says express your love, but there is a Knave of Wands. Kind of like you actually don't have energy to do that, and maybe you don't even have love toward this person. But then why am I getting Lovers and Wands? I think there is like something new. It could be that these are two people as well. This could be also losing enthusiasm about something younger, so it could be one person from the past, right? And one person from past. So sort of like two people, one is current but one is like from before, kind of a thing. There is like definitely loss of enthusiasm about something, but there is like also you know what, maybe somebody's going to express love to you, but this kind of like is confusing to me, because one is going in this direction and these two are really, really, really positive. But we'll see. Let's see what else comes our way, because this is kind of like your immediate future. It talks about unrequited love. Maybe you're giving up on this kind of like lovers, and on this kind of like, let's move in this kind of direction. Maybe there are too many things here, and one of those things is like, what about me? What about you, Scorpio? You need to kind of like deal with this, right? Because somebody was teasing you with commitment, and simply look at this King of Wands. Is like that enchanting, let's do stuff kind of a stuff, but also vanishing whenever kind of like they feel like it, because whenever the court cards reverse, they kind of like manipulators, and they manipulate with things that are very attractive about them, so hence it's kind of like very, very confusing. And you have another king of swords, and then you have the third karma card. Oh my god, which one I'm missing? I'm only missing Wheel of Fortune. You're kind of like tired, like almost like looks like that I'm dealing here with two people. Not only that you have one choice, but you have two choices, and both choices seems to be bad. Like one seemed to be kind of like really abrupt and using the intellect to control. Another one is using passion to control, right? Because you're definitely feeling the justice reversed is like that feeling when everything is like up in the air, like everything is against me, right? Because the justice is supposed to put everything in balance, kind of equalize things, but this feels like being on the receiving end of everything. It's like, it's kind of like, why nobody kind of loves me kind of a thing, right? But kind of like you did have that, you deserve love here, we are getting to it. So I think that's what's going to be a big shift in this particular month. Once when you get it and see the celebrities, like I was watching this interview with that Snooki girl from Jersey Boys, and she's like really hard to look at, and not that I really want to judge somebody, but my gosh, she thought she was very pretty, she thought that she's fabulous, there's something really special about me. Like, that's a narcissism really talking. So why would you want to be with people who just don't know even who they are? When that card reverses, it is really telling you that something is going to happen this month that you are not going to like. It's going to feel like being on the receiving end from a couple of sides from the other people, where you will be losing the battle. But this is asking you just to sit and wait, because this card is telling you not to take this karma in your own hands, not to deal with that way. You do deserve love, and you do not want people who don't know what they want. This is definitely, hey, would you like this glass of milk? No. This one? No. This one. So how about this super duper? I don't know. I don't think about it. You need to value yourself. You need to aim where you're going, and this is like one of your really, really good qualities. So hence, this again goes back to this kind of like very destabilizing. Maybe, you know, love is the stabilizing factor in your life, or the current people, like you have another 4. Current people are destabilizing. Maybe you have erected some kind of like walls. Maybe something happened to some almost like sudden way. These are arrows of love, but this can only happen when people take down their walls. I think that vulnerability, that getting to know, revealing yourself is really, really important. If I'm seeing this number of relationships over here, we had both Queen of Wands and King of Wands reversed, and we have Queen of Swords and King of Swords. It doesn't look like that any combination will work out, and the reason for that is that you are really dealing with the choices that are not best for you. You're trying to pick the curtain for the house. You cannot decide on the color or basically the size of this curtain, where the truth question you should be asking, do I really want to live in this house? And that's kind of like your focus needs to shift, which I think is going to happen. There is like some kind of like environmental thing for you, is that also there are issues that other people need to decide. Maybe you're going to tell them, look, you have to figure out where you want to go. And also you're going to put people on the notice about how they're expressing themselves, because look at that sword, the key here is communication. But there is like something for the future, there is something from the past over here as well. you're definitely insisting on team building, but there is like overall sense this entire month that you're kind of like suspended, that there's like this kind of like a sense of punishment. This means insisting. Somebody who used to insist, well, this is me and it has to be done this way, might completely go the other way. So it's kind of like not going to be like what you maybe think. If you're codependent, you're always afraid of doing that action because you will lose this person. But I think this month you're literally kind of cutting through that, because look at this. Your card is showing up. That is actually a good card. It really says sometimes we need to really bury things and finish things that are not working out. And I really think this is kind of like that codependency. You're like tired of being tired, of not being treated well, and you're saying, okay, you know what? I'm not crazy. I'm waiting for what I need to wait. You know, there is divine timing, and the reason why I'm not there yet is because I need to work on myself over here. I need to kind of like explore different options. Maybe you felt you had no option, and you have another 4 over here. And so kind of like give yourself some time to relax, give yourself some time to, you know, this card, when it shows up, you kind of like turn off your phone and you kind of like give yourself some time to daydream. And almost like when you die, it's the process of a rebirth, right? And again, as that rebirth, we again having so many options, but the process is also very tiring. So these quiet moments are also where we can actually solidify our ideas and express our thanks and express our gratitudes, right? So where is this heading? You did get cutting the other person off as well. This is definitely Queen of Swords, cut somebody off. But it's falling on codependency. So whether it's an addiction, maybe you have liquor problem, maybe you have drugs, whatever, one of those known kind of like things, but maybe it's simply that you are carrying on these burdens from the past and issues that have been kind of like resonating with you for quite a while, and you're kind of like putting an end to it, because Queen of Swords this way, it's kind of like almost like ending this kind of well, this is pretty good. Yes, you know what? You're kind of like, I think, making a new executive decision, and that executive decision is me, the Scorpio, needs to trust. I need to trust me. I need to enjoy me. I need to enjoy everything that I have amounted, because I did it myself, and I did it in spite of all of these issues and everything else. So this is kind of like self-recognition and completely kind of like starting in a new way and kind of like setting something in motion that is going to be really long-term, Scorpio. This is a very powerful reading, and if you manage to do that, I want you to really give me a notice, a comment like below, because shaking off the codependency is really, really hard. It's not really a process that can happen with a flick of the switch. It happens for kind of like some time. So it looks like something has been brewing here for quite a while, and there is like finally that essence of needing to shed that. It's very kind of like karma at play over here. And again, Scorpio, general reading, as I said, you can get private reading with me. I have also picked one more card to kind of like seal this reading, and this card is Magic Stream. It came reversed, so let me read this for you. In a reverse position, the Magic Stream card represents swimming against the current. There are times when effort and sheer willpower result in victory and celebration, but this isn't one of them. You can't force inspiration, and you can't manufacture creativity lest you borrow too heavily from others' ideas. Neither can you make someone love you or orchestrate a series of events that might place you in a more favorable position. Now it is the time to drop the trying and jump into the stream and float. Immerse yourself in the experience of being fully present with whatever is true for the moment. You'll never step in the same river twice. Anyway, I really think like you are orchestrating basically your own life. You, instead of like being just a floater in a river, you are actually becoming the commander of that ship, and taking charge back of your life and saying, well, this too shall pass, and I'm moving in a new direction, and I'm moving in a new phase. And good for you, Scorpio. This, what you're doing, is really, really big. And maybe you're deciding, well, you know what, maybe I don't really have to make a choice. Maybe the only choice is self-evident, and it is me. So you will choose yourself and your own vision, and trusting yourself, and kind of like getting away from the demons from the past. So my dear Scorpio, you know where to find me if you want your private reading. And in the meantime, I hope to see you on Saturdays for live readings, so you can get a chance to win a 15 minutes with me, 15-minute reading with me. And until the next time, please subscribe. You see this button over here, and share and comment. I always love to read your comments. Until the next time, love you.